Okay, it's 6 o'clock.
Do we have our recording devices on, Karen?
We do.
Excellent. I will go ahead and call our fiscal year 2019-20 budget hearing to order. We'll have the regularly scheduled monthly commission meeting after this, but the budget hearing is in fact a public meeting, so we'll treat it as such. Given that, if anyone would like to make a public comment, please state your name. You have 3 minutes to do so. Again, specific to the budget hearing. Anyone? Okay, nothing heard. We will move into the next item on the budget hearing agenda. And that is what I think you guys have all seen in your packet. I think we're calling it Resolution 2019-09.
Paula, Aaron, or Mark, if you guys have anything else you'd like to add?
Any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to add to this? Again, this is the adoption of our budget.
Good.
Okay, at this point then, I will entertain a motion, or a resolution rather.
I move that the Commission adopts Resolution 2019-09, adopting the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing the tax.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Thank you. Yeah. Unless there's any other comments, again, any other public comments? Last chance on our budget hearing. Again, nothing heard. I will go ahead and adjourn our budget meeting, the 2019 and 2020 budget hearing at 6:03. All right. At 6:03, I will call the regularly monthly commission meeting to order. Similar as before, I'll first entertain any changes to the agenda. Anyone have anything they'd like to modify or change at this point? Given that, again, public comment, anything on our regularly scheduled meeting? Okay, nothing heard from the public, so we will move right into the next agenda item. That would be our consent calendar. Everyone has had a chance to review that, I assume. Anyone have any comments? Yes.
Just one comment, and that is, we're nearing our, when we come to our meeting next month, we will have the P&Ls and balance sheets for the end of the fiscal year. They won't be official and have been through the audit. But I just wanted to make the request that, like we have the P&Ls that have the actual compared to the budget.
What page are you referring
Oh,
to?
I'm just looking at page 15. It's general operating fund, but there's several P&Ls.
Sure.
I just want to make a request that P&Ls be shown comparing the actual of the fiscal year to last fiscal year for each of the P&Ls.
Yeah, Jeff, I talked to Mark about that, and that should be no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring
Okay.
that should be nice. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the consent calendar?
I
Yes.
have one little question about the page 53, Coast Equipment LLC, shipping container for Safe Haven Hill emergency storage.
Hold on, we're not there yet.
Am I there?
We're just going to do the consent calendar, so just as we did before.
Okay.
So unless anyone would like to see anything removed or corrected on the consent calendar, which includes the meeting minutes, the financial reports, page 11 through 29, and the P&W membership. Good. Okay, I'll go ahead and would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move we approve the consent calendar as written.
Second. Great. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. We'll move into the next item on our agenda, correspondence, presentations, certificate of election results. We're on page 33 of our meeting packet. Paula?
Right, sorry, I didn't realize there was something that I would do, but I'm learning this. So, page 20.
Is there, I guess, is there
Yeah, because that's not.
page 33?
Sorry. Right, so, yeah, we did receive a request from the county to certify the results. And you have a letter in front of you, that's what we sent to the county, showing that, Commissioner Position 1, Walter Chuck got 1628 votes, Stuart Lumberding, Commission Position 3, 1173 votes. Jim Burke, Commission Position 5, 1632 votes. So that is been certified.
Okay, and then do you have an idea on the next step here? On our process will be the more formal swearing in will happen at the next meeting?
No, we actually are ready to do that today. So can we set that up to?
Yes, I had it later in the meeting, but we can do it now if you want.
Right, yeah, we had that later on.
Hang on 1 second. Thoughts?
I don't think we can do it till July 1st because our terms technically don't end till the 30th of June.
The bylaws do
Okay.
say before, you can do swearing in before you take your position.
Okay.
So it's,
Right.
certainly it's been done both ways in the past.
Okay.
I asked Karen exact that
Okay.
question because I thought it was a little bit odd that we would do this in June when say, for instance, if you haven't won the election, there would be other parties that would have to be invited to come in, but it has been done both ways, and I can, as long as we keep in mind that if that's the case, we invite the other party. It may change from year to year how you feel like. The reality is that the next meeting won't be until the end of July, so the concept here is that you would literally have almost a whole month where you may be missing some commissioners, or the commissioner is not going to be technically in the office yet because it hasn't been sworn in yet. So that is one of the reasons that we chose to just go ahead and put it into this month. But if you prefer to do the following month, that's fine as well.
Anybody has any direction either way? Well, we can certainly say this to item number 9, or would you like to do it now?
It's your
I know
pleasure.
Anybody feel about all that strongly one way or the other? All right. Why don't we just bust it out?
Might as well get it done.
All right, let's do it.
Sure, it's okay.
Huh?
To make things simple, we decided to just bring that up on the screen, so as you do your swearing, you can just read it right from the screen.
We'll try to swear.
I don't need to,
That's assuming they don't need glasses.
I can say and you can repeat after me, but with my accent, I don't know. It's just a little bit easier.
Trying to hit it with a hammer sometimes.
Yeah, it's on. How about this?
Yeah, there you go. It's good enough. All right. So maybe we should. What would be the easiest way to do one by one, since you all have different names?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe we'll start with Jim.
Sure.
Jim,
Stand up.
Yeah.
please stand up and repeat after the screen.
I, Jim Burke, do solemnly swear that I will honestly and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will support the laws, Constitution of the State of Oregon, and of the United States of America to the best of my ability.
And Walter, please.
I, Walter Chuck, do solemnly swear that I will honestly and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will support the laws and Constitution of the State of Oregon and of the United States of America to the best of my ability.
Right. I, Stuart Lamberton, do solemnly swear that I will honestly and faithfully discharge the duties of the office to which I have been elected, and that I will support the laws and Constitution of the State of Oregon and of the United States of America to the best of my ability. I had a schedule like that. All right. Anything else on the election? Anything else you'd like us to
No,
be
I
aware of?
believe we can save the election, the actual duties of each commissioners for next commission meeting.
Let's do it that way.
Unless you prefer to do it now, but I figured,
I think we could wait until July.
yeah, I thought so too.
Sounds
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. There were no items removed from the consent calendar. We have on page 49, accounts paid. Sarah, question?
I had a question on the Coast Equipment LLC shipping container for Safe Haven Hill emergency storage. Did we buy a container and take it up there or something? Or?
We did, so Jim Durkee was involved in that.
What page
And I
is that on?
believe
53.
Yeah, this I believe is our contribution to the tsunami evacuation. Yeah.
Right.
And the Safe Haven Hill, that's, somebody asked me, is that part of the port? And I said, no, it's the city, isn't
No,
it? Or county?
I don't know if it's the city or the county,
City,
but
it's in the city limits.
yeah, I think so.
It's the city, and we make use of it because we've got little boards sit down in the marina, and then also employees and things like that. So
Oh, yeah.
I think the city had bought supplies before. They were looking for somebody to contribute by way of another container because they have more supplies they got to stock it with. So
Yeah.
that was what they were.
It makes sense considering that if there's ever need for an evacuation, the port would be make a good part of that evacuation, considering all the tenants and marina and everything else on the south side. So
Yay, thank you. I got to ask my question.
Okay, anyone have any other questions about accounts paid? Do I need a motion for that or not? I believe so.
I move that we approve accounts paid.
Second?
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of accepting accounts paid as displayed in our meeting packet?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next on our agenda, Summit Communications. So you guys saw in the meeting packet, this has to do with our efforts to bolster up communications with in the port, or I should say more external to the port. Paula.
yeah, so you saw in your packets a couple things. So one, we are finishing up one of the contracts we have with Summit Public Relations, in which it was an effort to put together a plan, and which included some interview with some of the port stakeholders, and so Angela had been talking to a lot of people, and she came up with some plan that would cover some of the areas the port is lacking, or even things that we're doing, but it should continue doing. Some of those involvements include the staff and commissioners and things we should be doing, and maybe doesn't need so much of to pay somebody to do it for us, but a lot of the stuff she came up with does involve a little bit of work on the PR side. I looked at the plan she put together, or the scope of work, to put that plan in practice, and I thought it was actually quite good. As you can see there on the scope of work, or we have two different ways we can do this. One is by taking her option 1 or option 2. Option 1 includes a little bit more comprehensive approach in which the port will do most of the things that she came up with in her strategic plan or in her communication plan. The other one, it's a much narrower approach which only shows us the assistance from the outside on social media and maybe some few press releases. I believe, especially considering the approach we got from some folks that we don't seem to be doing a good job in outreach into certain areas. I think we need to continue working in those areas. You know, obviously a lot happened to the port here in the past couple of years, and we're still trying to understand how folks feel about port, and not only that, but also especially make sure that the port message gets out there. I think a lot of people don't even know what the port do, unless they're specifically involved in one side or the other, or sometimes none. So I really like the approach in which we try to do a bit more than less. At least for the time being, we can always look at this next year and realize, okay, I think we can take over from there and do maybe less assistance from the outside. But at this point in time, I think we need a lot of help. So I would like to request that you approve us to move forward with option one, unless you have any concerns or issues or questions.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts, questions? Yeah, Jeff.
I support this fully. I think it's very good, very needed. In full, we've done a great job, and the only hesitation I would have is direct mailings, simply for the cost. $4,200 per mailing is a lot. I see the reason why, and I understand it, and I agree with it. I would just be hesitant on how often and the purpose. So I'm not saying no. Just that's the only hesitation I have is that one item.
Certainly. Yeah, no, I understand your concern, because it is probably one of the costly part of this whole project. The thing is, a lot of people are, you know, into electronic mail these days, but there's still a lot of people that we don't have access to, and that's one of the biggest concerns. We figure if we can at least start, you know, do it a couple times to reach out for all the community, all the folks that don't even know much about the port, and perhaps get people to start signing up for electronic mail, and at least once in a while put it out there so people know what we're doing. It's the only way we're going to reach certain people, you know, and that's one of the reasons I feel like we should at least do it a couple times a year, if all possible, to start with. And if we feel like we already we're reaching a lot of people otherwise, then maybe we may retrieve that in the future. But at this moment, I don't know if you have anything else to add. Angela is here today, so.
Yeah, I understand the concern about direct mail. It does give us that one unique opportunity to make sure we hit as many people as we can. The other thing is, I think any good public relations outreach is going to involve kind of a multi-layer. You kind of want people to feel like, well, I seem to be hearing a lot of things about the port, a lot of good things. And so if they see something in social media, something comes in their mailbox, they see something in the newspaper, you have that chance to really build on that. And so that's the idea. But it is costly. I think there's been some conversation about the idea of more electronic. And so maybe the approach would be to try to start with something through the mail that encourages people, as Paula said, to sign up for something that over time you can go digital. But right now, you know, just just reaching out to people and asking, hey, where do you get your news from? Where do you hear about the port? That sort of thing. It was all over the map, and then there were some people who said, gosh, the only thing I know about the port is through gossip and that's word of mouth. And so again, you know, kind of putting out a more rounded, well-rounded picture of your organization. I think we want to use whatever tools are at our disposal.
Any other comments?
I fully support it, and I agree with what Paula said. It's a good way to take year one, and then we reevaluate in a little less than a year, how well it went, if we want to decrease the scope. So, I agree.
Walter?
Actually, I'd support option number 2, and then maybe going with a couple of the, if we can cherry pick a couple off of option 1. Just the printed newsletters. We used to do a newsletter, it's called Port and Starboard. I don't know if that template is still available, or if we can just revamp that instead of creating, I don't know if you were talking about creating a new one, a new format. I'm just
At this point, I
speaking
guess
out
we
loud.
evaluate if there was something already existing.
Yeah,
before we
and-
go from there.
Revamp that. I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel if it already existed. I think I'm just looking at the cost. It's close to $5,000 for 2 newsletters, and it's just a little expensive for me. And in this day and age, everybody wanting to reduce carbon footprint using less materials. I think if we can just have people start going electronic, I think we're over that hump now of where I would say that over 50% of people get their stuff electronically, whether it's on their phone or whether it's a tablet or on a computer. So I think that if we can just say, look, it's online, please go there and look at it. Other than that, I just see the price tag being a little high. I would support option 2 and maybe 1 newsletter if we can talk about that. But I just think that option 2,
Yeah.
my comfort level is.
It's just a concern again, and how we're gonna reach those people to start coming to us electronically. Right now, we don't really have very good method to do that. But, I get it.
Sarah, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I really like option 2, but I know what Walter is saying about the Port and Starter newsletter. It came out every month, didn't it?
Yeah.
And it was staff that put it together. And I think it's money well spent right now going with option number 1, because staff has had a rough couple of years too. And I think that, and I do think it's a little high, but I think that's something bright and cheery and colorful, and I know a lot of people that like to see and hold something. And just 2 newsletters, I think about carbon footprint too, but I'm kind of on board of all of that. And I like other little things that might down the road will prove to be better or something. Is the billing inserts, I think, are good and then that you can send it to specific groups, like the commercial group, tell them, hey, we're doing this repairs or something, 5 or 7 is a cheaper way to get some printed word out. And with the email outreach, I like the flexibility and speed are 2 of the biggest assets. And so is that still staff? Of course, will be responding to emails or stuff.
Well, it depends of what exactly we're dealing with. And in general, the staff will get that first. If we feel like we need to get an outside assistance in putting something together, then we'll be working with Angela.
But I think that's an important point, is that the flow of communications in this whole thing needs to flow through the general manager. Like nothing should be going out
No, absolutely, yeah.
your approval. in
It
some ways.
hasn't, and we'll continue doing it that way, where everything that goes out first, it flows through us, and we make sure that information is accurate and it is something we want to get out. Because some stuff we may just say, I better leave that alone, and then in that case, we may. It may vary from what we do, but it all comes through us first.
Yeah, thoughts?
A couple.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I like the more consistent approach to generating press releases in the earned media part. I think consistency has been a real problem with our stuff, and again, the monthly press release. I think something monthly is good. I do like the Port and Starboard newsletter as time goes on, I think, but and the Port, you said, could easily generate feature stories and photographic content. That's the content. That's like no-brainer. That's why a couple of these initial mail-outs would, ooh, that's right, what a beautiful place, let's go there, or what, I didn't know they did all that. And so there is overall, I think nobody knows what the Port does. And an annual event, is tough, but I think that that's something to really maybe strive for.
And those annual events, if I don't mistake, those are not part of the quote at this point in time. It's just an idea.
I would not think so.
So
But
if
it's something
we
to
were
think
do
about.
something, we would have to pay Angela extra for any communications.
And there's people out there that have done little events on port property that they would maybe do it formally with the report or with the port. I myself was a festival director in my past life, so anyway, updated frequently on the website is good.
And what since you mentioned that, if you don't mind, one thing about updating the website and even Facebook website, things like that. Sometimes we get so busy and caught up in our work that we may miss opportunities. And that is one thing that Angela is really good about it. She constantly calls, hey, maybe this is an opportunity for the port to show this or talk about that. And sometimes, again, it's not that we don't necessarily think about those things, but we just get so caught up in our work. By the time we think about it, the opportunity may have passed. So
that's why I think it's a perfect time to have really good help on the PR. And then the compelling story ideas are also a no-brainer. It's just so much going on. And we're almost missing an opportunity with Cast for Kids. I don't know if the port has offered up the barbecue, but we have a barbecue that is shared. And, I think that your example of missing out on Maritime Day in May, some stuff that was going on, is a way to focus on us. And yeah, that's about it. I really like the stuff. One thing that was maybe missing was port history. I don't think I read anything about port history, but it's a very rich history too. Some people, want to know more about history.
maybe those are the type of things that could be highlighted in Maritime Festival months or whatever, that bring up a bit more port history during that time. One more thing I would like to highlight on this particular project is that the port has budgeted, $30,000. I believe I put that on the report, but $30,000 for this coming year, as well as we have $20,000 for marketing efforts. And to be quite frank, that's not a high of a number for a port of this size. As a matter of fact, a lot of ports of this size have a PR person in-house, which can cost way more. So I think it is important to put a little bit of effort in communications, because that goes a long ways when people understand it, and from the community in general to stakeholders, legislators and so on, when they know the story coming from us and not from gossips like some folks that I think that is very important.
Well, I just had a couple of quick comments. I'll make them brief too. I think one of the things right out of the gate that's important for at least our tape recording folks that may listen to this, that this budget is not coming from a general personnel budget. So, we've got some pay equity issues that may be coming down the line at some point, and that I think it's important to clarify that these monies are not allocated as part of salary monies or anything like that that might be part of any other discussions we might have going forward. That being said, I sort of share maybe what Walter and loosely what Sarah was saying too. Just because we budget it doesn't mean that we have to spend it either. And I think that's an important component at the end, that we're not even in our first fiscal year yet, or in the fiscal year. So I might be a little hawkish on this, but I think that communications are critical. I don't think this relinquishes any responsibility from certainly the GM or the director of finance or whoever we end up hiring, who should be our key members who can provide a lot of the information, I think, in this. It's not that all communications are just going to be turned over to someone else. So there's still an important obligation there. Like I said, I'm a little concerned about the cost, but when we consider that we really haven't invested anything in this for 2 or 3 years, maybe we're paying a little bit of a price. I would also make the comment that I would sure like to, I mean, we're defining this as if 12 months at this point. It's an annual contract. And I think, I'm hoping that we can encourage others in the staff to look at some of this stuff as well, so that we take a hard look at this. Not that there's would be any problems, but just from a little bit more of a self-sufficiency going forward, if we can assume some of that, just simply in the interest of preserving budget money. So, but other than that, I think I couldn't be more supportive of the importance of communications, and I think Angela's done a great job. What she's done here, what she's presented, and we're lucky to have it. So, Paula, do you need I'm assuming you would like a motion from the commission here to move
Right.
forward, and if I read my
There are two
recommendation.
options, so, and they all come with a back price, so, again, my request or my recommendation is to move on with option 1. And again, as you said it yourself, just because we are choosing that doesn't mean we have to do everything listed in there. Is at least to give us the room to have that choice if we feel like it's the best choice.
All right, so at this point, unless there's any other discussion, I'll entertain a motion at this point.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Jim.
I make a motion to authorize the general manager to contract with Summit Public Relations Strategies LLC and move forward with option 1, not to exceed $28,100.
Second.
And if I can clarify that recommendation, then do we define that this is a 12-month period?
It is what is on the scope of work provided.
Not to exceed
Yeah, for
28,100
1 year.
for a 12-month period.
Yeah.
So you can just tack that to the end of the motion, if you're okay with that.
In a 12-month period. Sorry to read it over. Start over.
That's all right, unless Karen, you got it. The motion
You
just,
accepted the amendment to.
I have.
I-
12-month period.
and second, okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thanks. And thanks, Angela. We'll move into the next item on our agenda, which would be accounting supervisor. What?
So in the May 31st financial statements that are in the packet, we continue to track how the year end is going to land. Revenue continues to come in above budget and above revenue figures for the same period in the prior year. Expenses are within budget, so I don't foresee any jarring changes in that in this last and final month of the year. Other item to report, we had put out a request for proposals for audit services. That period for proposal has closed, and we've received proposals from 6 audit firms. We got some good phone calls from most of these firms asking additional information, talking about the report, so there was some good discussion. I think both for them to get a feel for where we're at and for us to kind of understand some of the people at these firms, so that was good. The management team will now go through those proposals, score them, and I think at the next meeting, make a recommendation. That's all.
Have any of those folks been on site?
They haven't. The auditors, prior to Grimstead and Associates of the last 5 years, they would have been on site. They were ones that, they were one of the 6 that proposed, and one of the 6 that called and asked questions.
Just curious.
Yeah. That's all.
Did Grimstead, did they reapply?
They did.
Okay.
They did.
Okay.
Just real quick, you said that we're finishing up the year well. Is that it? Did we make any projections for revenue, and are we concerned at all about whether or not that came in under or over our revenue projections?
So I've been tracking that, particularly as we get close to the end of the year. And as in past years, we are over, particularly in the significant categories like RV park, space rental.
Okay.
That is over. Commercial marina services, mortgage over. I think overall that's going to push us
Okay.
over operationally for the entire year.
Okay. And when you say over, that's exceeded our
Yes,
calculated
it's
expected
exceeded our
revenue.
budget, right,
Yeah.
right. And also then it's exceeded what those revenue balances were for last year. So we're over and above last year as well.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Do you have a rough idea of how we might land yet, a magic number?
I don't, I haven't.
Of course, we've got all these tape recorders going right now.
Yeah,
so-
right, yeah. I'm just beginning to think about year end
Okay,
and
that's
do
fine.
some of that work.
That's fine.
Too closely, I'm going to watch those
Okay.
main revenue and expense numbers compared to budget last year. So.
Great. Any more questions for Mark? Thanks, Mark. Next up will be the Director of Operations, Aaron.
All right, we've got just a couple things, a couple highlights to mention here. Squid's pretty much done for the year. We have a total of 3 squid pumps at the port. There's still one sitting down in our storage yard at the commercial marina, but I don't know. They offloaded some a little bit last week, but I think they're going to keep trying. But I think it's pretty well done for the year. So although you can see the pumps there for a couple of months or so, they were really only in operation for about 12 days. Offloaded about 698,000 pounds of squid, which is a light year for us. We could have done a lot more than that. But at the end of the day, it resulted in $46,329 additional in revenue to the port, and minus expenses, which includes fully encumbered port labor. We profited $38,090 in 12 days. So I think it was a good. I think it was a good venture, especially when you consider the amount of maintenance that places on the facility. It's a very light draw. I mean, this is a very light load sort of thing. It was definitely a good thing to get into. So that's that one. And then the EDA grant, I talked to them today. They expect the committee should meet on Wednesday to talk about our grant request. But we probably won't hear a ruling on it for another 2 or 3 weeks. So it'll probably be about the middle of July, maybe second week of July, when we get firm feedback on it. So everything else is in my report. I can answer any questions you might have.
Aaron, what were the dates that the squid fleet was here? I mean,
So I didn't mention in there. It's someplace. It was basically through the months of March and April. That's off the top of my head. I have a lot more details back at the office, but it was right around that time period.
and I had one more question too. So on the EDA grant, the only thing that I would say is that when they change personnel,
Yeah.
stay on top of them, because when they get new personnel, they tend to want to reinvent the wheel and look at everything, start all over again. And if we can have as much other information they might need, but just in past grant things and permitting.
Yeah, that's
They-
definitely
they
the
want
case.
to, they want to start all over again, and the new people don't want to look at the other people's work.
Yeah, it's a bit of domain building probably, but you're right. That's I've noticed that. But Cascade West has helped us out in some regard. They've experienced a similar situation though. So we're trying to keep the relationship working well. And we'll just wait and see how it goes. So.
Thanks.
Why did EDA switch all of them? Is it a thing that happens, or is it the administration, new administrations in Washington?
I know one fellow retired, and I don't know the head of the office. I don't know whether he retired or what it was, but a couple folks retired. And that's the best word I got for you. That's what I heard. So.
Other questions? I was just curious, Eric, have you had any discussions with them about, I mean, we've seen the Ilukai, whatever that boat that's down at NOAA now that seems like it's going to be done. Is there any concern or anything with a cold layup like that in terms of anything that we need to be worried about as a port in terms of essentially it's a vessel that's probably not, I don't know if it's being, you know what I'm going at, like,
Sitting idle.
yeah, do
It's
we
not-
need to worry about it from a maintenance perspective or any issues that may come about?
You know, I haven't talked to Jim about what they're going to strip off of it there. I don't imagine they're going to strip very much stuff off of it. I do expect it's going to be there for a number of months though, because it'll go through the whole auction process of disposal and all that
Go through
stuff. so-
GSA or something?
Yeah,
like that?
GSA will administer that, I'm sure. I don't know how. The only concern that I would have is what gear are they going to strip off of it, and how are they going to strip it off, and that would be about it. Other than obviously, you know, I don't know what they've got on the ship right now as far as monitoring for flooding and things like that.
This is kind of what I was
But
going with it.
you know, if there's nobody on it and it's just sitting there, then of course that would be a concern. So.
It might be worth at least touching base with the person there just for a rough idea, or Jim maybe can just have, maybe he already knows, just a rough idea. I'd hate to see anything, especially if it was taken out of a yard because it was just too much to invest in it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to create some drama.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jim about it. I'm sure he's already talked to him about it. So.
They said that there were hull deficiencies that couldn't really be managed, and I hear that and I think leaks. But that, I mean, the port can monitor that, Jim can monitor. You could look over the dock, I guess that's not when you want to find the leak, but I don't think that we're purposefully trying to put a vessel into the bay that is going to in any way cause harm.
Right.
I guess that's kind of where I'm going. It's a little bit of a due diligence. I'm sure they have it, but probably would be a bad idea for the port to just touch
Yeah,
base.
because the description of it wasn't very flattering.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else for Aaron? All right. Let's move on to the next item up for bid. And that would be Paula?
Yeah, so I provide you my monthly report, in which I guess I'll focus on the work actions here, and if you have any questions, please let me know. But as you requested, we have sent out that letter to NOAA. I don't expect any answer to our letter unless they have some concerns about what we said, which is basically requesting them not to bring in non-NOAA vessels into the bid. I did say, though, should they try to bring in a vessel to the area and we do not have availability at the international terminal, then to talk to us and we may reconsider depending on the situation. So those are things that obviously, there's no other place for them to land, and we should discuss that. But we also have been working on the Ronda's lease, which has been out to Ronda's for signature. While we're talking to Ronda's regarding the lease, we actually touch up on several subjects related to that particular site, because we're entangled with them in many ways. One of them is the fact that we really don't have legal access to our site there, our 9 acres, because that's really their property, that access. So we talk about easements and things like that. And apparently there was some easement wandering around a couple of years ago or so that never made it to commission, I don't believe. And that was basically a reciprocal easement with the gas company around the Sand Port. So I'm revisiting that. We also touch up on the shed that we have there with the electrical equipment and how to resolve all of that. And technically, because of the way the lease was written, they could take over that shed as part of what was built on the air leasehold. But they understand the history and they know there's been some handshake shakes in the past, so they're willing to work with us. One of the things that I thought maybe would be a solution, and it's not necessarily something the port may want to pay, but we need to consider if we have to build a new shed with the electrical equipment, which is possibly purchase that little area and where the shed is, since was built into the property by the state. That would be probably in the $10,000 range, but that would require to move just do a lot line adjustment to move the property over where it really should have been. So those are things we're still under discussion, and as we learn more, we'll bring that up to the board and see what you think. So we are, and we also talked to them about possibility of moving community ice into a shape that would still allow some stretching of the nets. They really rather not touch the area, the footprint, but they're certainly willing to work with folks with the nets when that is needed, if the area is not in use. So they said if that's needed, just come talk to them and they'll be happy to accommodate. So beyond that, the other thing is that we actually made an offer to hire a new director of finance today, which just happened this afternoon, so I haven't really talked too much to anyone, but I did indicate that on my report that may happen. We're still talking to folks, so I don't have too much details at this point to give you in this meeting, but we're hoping if everything moves forward that we'll have a starting date of around the 22nd of July, so just before next commission meeting. So if everything goes accordingly, I would like to bring that person to the next commission meeting to present it to you. And unless you have some questions, I'll just keep at that.
Anybody have anything for Paul?
Yeah, just on the special use permit for Ardor Adventures. I mean, this is like the 4th or 5th year we've worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we could have them ask for a write-up of what's gone back to the community? I mean, there's a lot of community entities in here, and I just want to make sure that
Right. I actually had a little meeting with him right as I started, because I heard about that's an ongoing thing. And we talked about that actually, and getting a little bit more details, and because we figure it's great that it's going to nonprofit, but how does it get dispersed? How,
right. And I just want to make sure that we're waiving almost $5,000 in fees. I want to make sure that this is a good amount is going back to all these charities, which are good ones for the community. But I just want to make sure that
totally understand. Yeah. So I'll try to get more of that. One of the things he said, he actually puts money into himself. He doesn't get any. So not only the money that are collected goes to the charity, but he also contributes parts of his work into it as well. So, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
We probably should be seeing some of that, since we're a public entity, and should be a little bit more disclosure to it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Isn't this something that Angela's work will come in to play a little bit, that can be more highlighted as these things that the port do that nobody ever knows, and that we're supporting really good groups, like you said. Money's being put into the community.
Absolutely.
Regarding the special use permits, there were a couple of them last time that said that they would get us proof of insurance. Have they been providing those?
Yes, they have.
Okay. And you made a comment here, working on request for utilities easement from Hatfield Research Center. Could you
Sure.
expand on that just briefly?
Yes, so I did get a request from them for a water easement. So the easement would actually go to the city, but it's for the new building that they're building right now. So one of the things I was doing is reviewing their lease and see how it all works. I don't know how much you want to discuss in this meeting, but certainly one of the things we're trying to figure out is how we move forward in terms of, giving those type of agreements or easements and so on related to a lease that we really don't get a payment for. But on the other hand, as you look at the lease, at least this is my take from looking at the lease, I have seen that we have agreed that they would build certain types of buildings for their, use and so on. And easements, utility easements sort of goes with that. So, I think the few dollars that we would get from an easement related to that, it's not going to make up for a lease that, at one point we did it to enhance the community, I guess. So certainly we'll be happy to take any input on that. But I discussed that with the attorney, how it works, and
Well, I might follow up, a little bit on it. We can do it later.
yeah.
We need to take up any time with this meeting right now.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we could, I just remember when we had a nibble on seaweed and they wanted to drill and try to get salt water or something, that would we get some reciprocal lease of seawater from them or something if we were to develop our own land?
And those are the type of things that is certainly, if we are doing those type of things to them, that we can talk about, maybe we can work together and benefiting both parties, and
Because it
different
just is
things.
such close proximity in this
Right.
area. And maybe get some development that would pay.
That if you do have some ideas of things that, I'm only coming on board, so I don't know the type of things you guys have already dealt with them in the past, but if anyone, knows of, hey, maybe we should consider this and talk to them about doing, this at the same time. I know they probably need this easement sooner than later, so I'll probably bring that to you for the next commission meeting. I was just trying to understand the lease first and get, all the information. But by any means, tell me anything you feel like you should know in order to take this into consideration moving forward.
Any other, did you want to make any comments about the gear storage separate from your report? Or did you want to?
The gear storage is basically out there for signature. So I don't know what else is there to discuss. You pretty much allowed me to move forward with that during the last meeting, so we're just moving forward with it.
Page 103, you have a background and recommendation. Did you want to add anything to that, or did the commission have any questions on that?
That. I'm so sorry. That is a different one. I thought you were talking about the lease itself. Yes, during the last commission meeting, we discussed what kind of languages we should have on that gear storage, because you're concerned about liability and a whole bunch of things that goes with storing other people's and the equipment, and how we go about taking that in and what kind of notification we have, and unaware that we actually, in our mortgage license, we actually have language for that type of storage. I was more concerned that we should have a document that keep that. But after looking at the document that Aaron sent me for mortgage license, it does have a box for the particular use, and throughout the document it does have several languages that really cover some of those areas, and I highlighted here with the bullet points some of the concerns that I remember that came up and that I was concerned myself. Just to show that those are all within that agreement. So this is more for your information, unless you have questions and you feel like we should do something different.
Do you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Thanks for following up.
I will say again, that, I mean, this may be fine, but I think the port at some point in the future needs to look more closely at how they manage storage, prioritization of certain types of storage gear, where it's at.
Yeah.
I think it requires a bigger discussion, and it would lend itself more to something, I think, a little bit more detail in terms of how we store gear, what we store. But fine with us if we look into it.
Right, so at that, I think we talked about maybe if there are some limitations in what we store or not store, that it would be something perhaps the commissioners want to weigh in, because right now it would be hard for staff to tell people, well, we can store this, but not that, because we have nothing to go by it, you know. So if there are some, and we can work on that together, but if there are specific things that you feel like maybe we should limit at that, perhaps we need to put that into a different kind of documentation overall of what port do and not do. And when you do that, you gotta figure out, are we doing this just for this area or this property or this property, or how we limit it overall, those type of storage within the port? Or we're gonna limit it just to the terminal, or we're gonna, how we're gonna go about it. So I did not include that here because, again, I didn't think that was part of what I was gonna research, but if that's something you want us to.
I think it's a bigger discussion.
Yeah.
All right, anybody have any other comments, questions? Let's go ahead and move into commissioner reports and comments. Jim, I'll start down with you. Anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time.
Jeff?
Nope.
Walter?
Nope.
Sarah? I'll just say I did attend the Vision 2040 meeting last Wednesday. Wednesday. But other than that, it's a good group to be a part of. I think they're coming together, but it's important for the port to have representation there. So,
Actually,
great.
I did forget.
Yeah.
I did attend the city council meeting last Monday, and the parking group is going away, but they are going to start doing some parking licensing, and I think that that's something that we should stay involved with. And that the money that went into the parking district, make sure that didn't just go into the Ethernet, and that whether or not we can leverage it, or whether whatever happened to it, we should have a say in it, since most of it is our contribution.
Right, at that, I haven't had a chance to talk to the city yet about the details, because I was trying to even understand that. And I did get a copy of the IGA from Aaron. Time was a little bit limited when it came to that one in particular, but my understanding is we had some obligations, they had some obligations as well.
Yeah.
There were a few things that they were supposed to do, and we're trying to still understand, what's been done. But my understanding is that the money that we paid was actually even for the previous year. There were 2 years worth of requirement from the port for those payments. And we certainly will look a little bit closer on that one and follow up and making sure that we were just talking about that last week, and how we're going to approach that and understand what's been done and how we should get ourselves involved. But thank you for the reminder.
Yes.
I just think it speaks again to the PR work, is that, there you two had a report that you took time out of your day and represented the Port of New York. And it does come up here, but, it's just really important to be doing what you guys did. And we all have our liaison positions, but get the word out there where that Port of Newport can.
Sounds good. All right. Everyone can see here calendar for future consideration. I'm not going to read all those there. They're in your packet. Unless anybody has anything else on the commission side, I'll go ahead and begin our final public comment section. If anyone would like to make a public comment, state your name. You have 3 minutes to do so. Nothing heard. Yes.
One more thing I should have highlighted from my report. So the strategic plan, I have been trying to follow up with the state where they are on reviewing that. I got some comments today. I haven't really got that deep into the comments. Dave Harlan from the state is also going to attend the PNWA conference, and we talked about just getting into more details during that conference. Meanwhile, I am hoping to, if everything goes accordingly, to bring that strategic plan for next commission meeting for approval if we can get to that one. So I was hoping to get it to this commission meeting, but it just didn't happen. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, nothing else heard. I'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 7:01.